Good morning. Today is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022, approximately 10:05 a.m. And this is the meeting, the Zoom meeting for the St. Louis Board of Aldermen Streets, Traffic and Refuse Committee. Madam Clerk, this committee is called to order. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaquero.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Bosley.
Present.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Peel.
Hello, present.
Chair Tyus.
Present.
We have 6 present.
Thank you. Okay, that is a quorum. Next on the order of business is approval of minutes. And I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, October 26th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a
Well,
motion
not
that,
second. We haven't done a roll call yet.
yeah. Okay, Alderman from the, I'll tell you afterwards. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second that will approve the minutes of Wednesday, October 26th. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaquero.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel. Chair Tyus.
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna go out of order. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to Board Bill 80. And then we're gonna go to the streets. So I'm still missing the Director of Streets. I don't like it when people don't show up when I ask them to. That makes them get a subpoena and a body attachment. So I've always tried to tell people, please understand that the Board of Aldermen is like Congress. And when you don't show up when I ask you to, that's contemptible to me. And so I'm hoping, Mr. Brightenfield, that you could get her and tell her either she shows up or she'll be showing up as a subpoena. Can you see where she is, please, while we're doing this?
Yeah, she's she's up in Chicago at a conference, but I can text her and see if she can
Oh,
get
no. If she's at a conference, that's okay.
Okay.
You're good anyway, but we'll have her back next week. But it'll be that she'll show up because I have questions about what's going on there. So that'll be fine. We had Board Bill number 80 was already discussed last week. We had a number of people that came to testify. I also don't see the treasurer who was supposed to be here, who said he would be here. So I don't know what's going on with him. I don't understand why people think that a requested come before a committee is a request. It is a command, and it comes followed by something that you don't want is a subpoena and a body attachment. So I didn't hear that he was not going to show up. He assured me he was. And that's interesting that he's not here. And I'm hoping he's just running late. In the meantime, I see we have Dan Copland and is that Mr. Ware from the building division?
Mute up here, down there.
Yes. And
Can you hear us?
I see Les Thurman is here.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, is Eddie, I never did say your name right. Say it please, Mr. Eddie.
It's Eddie Poor.
Poor, that's right, you said it before, okay. P-O, okay, Eddie Poor is here. And is there anybody else here that is going to testify or wants to testify again? I don't see Barb Burkett. Okay, I don't see her. I don't see Tanya Tucker. Boyer, Lieutenant Scott Boyer. He's on here twice.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I spoke with Tanner Tucker yesterday, and he said he's going to try to make the meeting, but he has a work obligation right at 10 o'clock, so I expect him to join during these proceedings, but he had a work obligation.
And now I see Mr. Sweeney, and even though he's not on my list, he gets a special privilege if he wants to testify, just because we have long-term relationship with him as our former board council, and also I like if people show up. I'm pretty much gonna let you testify if you show up. So if he wants to testify, he can. If he doesn't, that's fine also. But I just wanted to kind of get an idea of who we had here. We're gonna bring Board Bill 80 before us again. And would you, Madam Clerk, just read the introduction, even though we did that last week?
No problem. Board Bill number 80, introduced by Alderman James Page, an ordinance pertaining to the permitting of surface parking lots as defined herein and to be codified at sections 8.70.010 and a new section 8.70.035 of the revised code of the city of St. Louis, establishing additional requirements for the same and containing a severability clause and an emergency clause.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Page, did you want to present your board bill again? You don't have to put your hand up because you're on board anyway, okay?
Yes.
Please
Before I
take your
get to
hand
that,
down.
yes, before I get to that, I would like to.
Again, okay, thank you. All right, go ahead. You like to, your hand is still coming up, so would you take it down? So there you go.
It is down. The reason
Okay.
for the hand, I wanted to make a comment on one of the speakers. In the speakers list, there was Lieutenant Scott Boyer that I listed as tentative. I wanted to
Right.
let you know that he will not be joining us today.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, yes. Madam Chair and members of the Streets, Traffic and Refuse Committee, it is my honor to bring Board Bill 80 before you for a second week to continue our discussion of this most important piece of legislation. I will return it to you. I do not know that we will get to a vote today, but I'll return the meeting to you, Madam Chair, so we can continue under your leadership.
Okay, thank you. Right now, we're gonna go to speakers again, and I have to swear you in and kind of talk about the public hearing procedure again. And I let people come back since we're having the hearings, because I think that sometimes things come out that we didn't hear the first time. I will always refer to Tom Villa, who was the first president of Board of Aldermen when I got here and had been at the State House. And Mr. Villa told me that when they were up at the state, they used to have several meetings on important board bills so that things that needed to come out, you could flesh things out. You could have a really good discussion so that people didn't feel like things were pushed down their throat and they didn't have a say. And I always thought that was such a good idea that when I can, I try to do that. There's some things that don't require that we do this, but this is something quite different. And I know the Alderman from the 5th has worked on it a very long time. So I think it is in our best interest to talk about it 2, maybe even 3 meetings until we make sure that people are comfortable. And there will be some people who may not be supportive, and it may or may not pass out of committee, but at least it will be a thorough hearing in which facts can come out. And a lot of times things like this, people put misinformation out. So the more you can have public hearings, the more the public is made aware of what's going on, and we can kind of quash those things that are not quite true. So a public hearing procedure for webinar, speakers will be called in the order they appear on the list, which is in the same order in which they registered to speak. Each speaker will be given a time limit set by the committee chair. I told you, since I am long-winded, I don't tend to hold people to that because I want to hear what they have to say. Each speaker will be called by a name when it's their time to speak. Each speaker may speak on the topic that the committee chair has recognized. Pretty much it's open, and you can speak on whether you're for or against it. Each speaker will be told when their time is up. Once the time is up, a speaker is to stop talking unless the committee chair gives them additional times. All participants are asked to be respectful and considerate to others. And you can leave written comments by sending them to the clerk of the board, Mr. Terry Kennedy, at kennedy@stlouis-mo.gov, or by calling 314-589-6845 to make arrangements. Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to correct the public hearing procedure. Mr. Kennedy's email address is after STLOUIS, the dash is missing between Mo and gov. Can we get that corrected? Because we don't know if people have been sending us stuff and clicking on that and getting an error message, okay?
Yes, ma'am. So
Thank you.
noted. Mhm.
All right. And I got this establishing additional requirements for certain surface parking lots, frequently asked questions. Alderman Page, is this from you or someone that you know about?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, I submitted it as information to the clerk. And
Okay.
that is a document that hopefully will help people understand the nuances of this bill and will help distinguish or extinguish, if you will, some misinformation that may be floating around. It is
Okay.
intended to be, as the name implies, 100% factual.
Okay, and the next thing that I have in writing is something from from Treasurer Adam Lane, which is regarding Board Bill 80. And I would like to just read it for those who don't have it. It says, to Chairwoman Tyus, Alderman Page, and members of the Street Traffic and Refuge Committee. Last week, I was able to testify in your meeting on behalf of Board Bill 80, and I am now submitting my written testimony for the committee to have on record if needed. First and foremost, I will start by saying that I am in full support of Board Bill 80 as a safety paramount for St. Louis to move forward and for our residents and visitors to feel safe as they work and enjoy our city. The Treasurer's Office manager and maintains several lots and garages around the city. We have already began assessing our security needs and the updates required for us to be putting out the best possible product for St. Louisan. Given this, we've begun to assess the cost of repairs and updates using current market rates. My initial comments last week were to ensure that lots weren't abandoned by private owners and in turn left to the city to keep safe. However, I have reached out to private lot owners and been provided new information that gives me full confidence they will be able to make all needed changes without public dollars allocated. I think that was one of the concerns. I think it is commendable that these for-profit entities are taking on the financial responsibility of improving their lots for public safety, especially when many private entities in our city refuses to. Therefore, I support the bill as presented. My only subsequent ask, as previously stated, are that I would like to, there be provisions and acknowledgements of the differences in lot sizes, locations, and projected traffic for designing the punitive measures for incidents that may occur on the lots. And lastly, for 2, my office to serve as a thought partner when the process and policies around hearings, oversight, and review for surface lots incidents, with much thanks and gratitude. And that's from Treasurer Lane. So that was what he sent. And I'm hoping that you guys, I emailed it to the street committee. I'm sorry, I forgot to send it to Alderman Page. I'm doing that right now. So he'll have it. And then I sent it to the clerk to put on the Google Drive.
It has been added to the Google Drive.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, so that there's been a significant change in that testimony. There's the treasurer in that before he was talking about us giving money to help them. And so that made people pause. So that was a significant change to get that letter. So I'm glad that he made that change, because some of the committee members were quite concerned about that, as were some other people who thought that wasn't. All the people who intend to testify to raise their right hand. Okay. Okay, Mr. Sweeney, you're not testify?
I would like to.
Okay, I told you you can.
Thank you. I thought I had signed up. I apologize.
All right, no problem. And so let me see what this exact language is. So I don't see it in front of me. So you can either affirm or swear and say your name. do solemnly affirm or swear that the testimony I'm about to give before the street committee is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Alderwoman Tyus?
Is she frozen?
I think
Yeah,
she may have frozen.
okay, let me try calling her, letting her know. Thanks.
Well, I guess as the vice chair, we can at least finish the swearing in. So when she comes back, we can have that completed.
Okay, because she's about to log back in. She's having some technical difficulties.
Okay,
so-
cool.
okay.
I was, we can just think we just at least have that done and just be able to move forward.
Okay,
Looks like, is she coming back in now? Okay.
she should be coming back in. She's logging in through her iPad.
Okay. It's like she had everyone swearing in at one time. Okay, so we'll just finish the affirmation, and when she pops in, we'll just let her know that at least we knocked that out. Therefore, she can continue on as the chairwoman. That's one less thing we do have to worry about. So once again, for those individuals who once again she was asking to swear in, I believe that was everyone. Do you affirm your testimony to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Once again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So when Alderwoman Tyus steps back in, we'll be ready for her to begin the meeting the way that she has planned for it to go today. We appreciate everybody being here as well. Your time is extremely valuable. We know people have a million things to do. We appreciate you being here with us.
All right, can people hear me now?
There she
Hello?
is. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
Yes.
my iPad seems to do a better job than Spectrum. Okay, so I'm on my iPad again. So sorry about that. So I was asking Alderman Page if he wanted the building division employees to testify alone, or did he want them to answer questions? It's up to him.
In the interest of time, what I would like to do is have them testify in serial order, one behind the other. I do
Okay.
know that they have some commitments later in the day. I think we're in good time, but I'd like to get them on and have them testify in serial order.
Okay, so either one can start, Mr. Copeland or Mr. Ware, whichever one. First, you and then the other. Your choice.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought you were asking Alderman Page. I can testify first.
Okay, go
All
ahead.
right, all right. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. The building division is strongly in favor of and supports Board Bill 80. We feel that it will provide a safe environment for the citizens that use these businesses. I personally feel, and I think the commissioner does also, that Board Bill 80 will help decrease a lot of the nuisance activity that we are seeing at some locations. That's the gist of our feeling, is that we are in strong support of this board bill.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Cobb, that was who testified?
That was
Ware?
Ed Ware. Yes, ma'am.
You're right. Okay, Mr. Copeland, do you have anything to add?
Madam Chair, the only thing I have to add is the issues I have doing my inspections on the parking lots, if you want to hear those.
I do.
Okay. My biggest concern is when I'm out inspecting at nighttime or daytime when we have games or events. My biggest issue would be the attendance is not out there. And on several lots we'll have that, but they'll have the pay boxes out there, but still nobody's securing the lots. No security whatsoever. It's all the way down to
Okay.
patios. Just started doing patios, securing our security. And this year, I don't know what's going to happen after this because we cited a couple of them for not having attendance. And I got one lot condemned on South 4th Street for not having a lot security and this conditions.
Okay. And so you think this board bill will help with the enforcement of them having attendance there? Why?
Why? For safety.
Yeah, but I'm saying how the people who are breaking because I thought we already had an ordinance that says they're supposed to have attendance. How will we better be able to enforce this? Stiffer penalties, the ability to shut it down. I thought I saw something where the building commissioner could also put some kind of barricades around. How would it help you make them follow the ordinance and laws better? That's what I'm asking. And if you can't answer, maybe Alderman Page can.
Well, the enforcement is under the building division on these bills you're making here.
Madam Chair, may I speak once again, please?
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Ware.
Okay, thank you. The section 13 of board bill under the enforcement clause helps us to enforce these illegal activities. It even talks about the building commissioner having the ability to order barricades
Right.
any surface parking lot that is not compliance of the board bill.
Right.
The extra enforcement that we see in the board bill, and I don't want to get specific on each individual violation, but the enforcement built in here and the authority given to the building commissioner, we feel will greatly help us stop a lot of this illegal activity at these businesses.
So here's my question. So I see section 13 because I have it underlined and I had a question. It says the ordinance shall be enforced by the police division in connection with the building commissioner. So
Correct.
if you go there and lot is not, doesn't have the people that's supposed to be there, the attendant, would we call the police to bring them out there or would we shut them down? Would we cite them? What would happen?
I guess each one's going to have to be dealt with differently. Sometimes any problematic business owner will be dealt with more harshly than others. We are in close partnership with the police department. It even goes back to the building commissioner doing promulgated rule of order 1001 back in September of 2011. And that added some teeth to these parking businesses, these parking lots. And in
Right.
that particular rule, it talked about the involvement of the Metropolitan Police Department as far as trying to educate these people on their requirements and on their duties to run a safe environment. I hope I'm not being too general in my answers.
Well, I want a little bit more specific. So, okay, so I'm hard-headed. I own a parking lot. I know you have these rules. I'm not doing it anyway. Do we give them a citation to appear before a municipal judge? Do we come and just close them down for a month and say, okay, you can't operate at all if you can't do what we say?
Well-
Is there a range of things that we can do to make them have someone on that lot? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I guess in the board bill under section 9 on the renewal, they would be jeopardizing any renewal of the occupancy that they have. We would deny renewal. We also have the ability, if we feel it's justified, to condemn that lot and do revocation of the active occupancy. We have different enforcement paths we can take. But the renewal, the yearly renewal, I believe it is in the board bill, that's another real positive enforcement tool that the city of St. Louis will have. So
And do you have to
revocation.
go-
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. Go ahead, I'm
I
sorry,
was-
go ahead.
I was saying, the enforcement tools are revocation, denials, condemnations, revoking occupancies. I guess normally when we do this type of activity, we send, excuse me, information to the police department to help us with enforcement and also to our partners with the business license. So we try to get everybody, we try to communicate with everybody involved in this type of activity. So that would be our recourse for illegal activity or problematic business owners.
Okay, so you wouldn't wait a full year if they really became a problematic and there had been criminal activity on that lot and it's scaring people downtown, then you would step up your enforcement up to revoking the occupancy. You wouldn't just wait to deny it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am, we can use that
Okay.
tool.
Okay, and do you have to go through, for this, would you have to go through the city councilor or can you guys do it without it? Because I'm not a fan of the city councilor, being as that I was able to unearth for a full 5 years, only one property in all of North St. Louis had been shut down. And it wasn't one of these places, these where you got the gas stations and the liquor and they're shooting back and forth. It was a grandmother's house with too many kids. Will you have to deal with the city councilor's office at all?
No, ma'am, we can act independently from them, but they are also our partners in the enforcement in the city of St. Louis. So we always inform them and they're always tutoring us and guiding us because ultimately, if we do something illegal, they are our representative at any litigation.
Except for when they can't read. So when they say the nuisance ordinance requires you to do 911 and it doesn't. So that's the only problem is somebody needs to tutor them sometime and I'm going to be that person. And also you and I know they used to, when they did nuisances, when they had hearings, they would send stuff to your organization, to the building division. They sent it to the alderman. A long time ago, they stopped doing that because that left too much of a record of what they were or were not doing. So I have much more confidence in the building commissioner and you, Mr. Copeland, than I do in the city councilor's ability to close things because we spent almost $500,000 on one city councilor and in all of North St. Louis to close one property. That's a problem from the city councilor's office. So, but I do have a resolution. We will be addressing that at a different time, but I'm glad you can act independent.
Okay, I don't have any more questions from you. Are you guys finished with your testimony?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay, I would start with my vice chair to see if he had any questions. Just a minute, Mr. Page, Alderman Page. Is there any member of the Board of Streets, I'm sorry, the Streets Committee that has any questions? Okay, Alderman
do.
Page, can you wait a minute? Because I have several people on the committee that have questions. Is it something that you need to say before, Alderman Page?
I've taken my hand down. I'll wait.
All right, so Alderman Bacall, did you say you have questions?
Well, still comments, if, to the building division, if a lot is a nuisance property, even without this board bill, aren't you able to act on nuisance properties? I mean, that would be my thing. I mean, we haven't condemned every house in my neighborhood, but if there's a problem property, that's the one that we go after. And I assume that same ordinance applies to parking lots downtown, I would assume.
Is that question towards me, Alderman?
Yeah, I mean, why haven't
Okay,
you,
well,
I mean, do you go after the problem properties now?
I can only speak to the ordinances that I enforce. The primary ordinance, of course, is the building code, and everything feeds off of that. 70794 is the ordinance. Any separate legal action taken by another department, and I guess you're questioning the city councilors, I would have to have you address those to them. I have a pretty good, we have a pretty good success rate in dealing with nuisance properties with the city councilors. But right now, I'd like to, and I'm not trying to steer you in a wrong direction. I'd like to stay focused on the board bill and the extra enforcement it gives us. It's an extra tool in the toolbox, basically, for the city government to deal with these businesses. And not all of these businesses are problematic. A lot of them are very well run, and they're conscientious and effective operators of these businesses. So
I don't disagree there, but, and Madam Chair, I would like, obviously, my understanding, we're not voting on this today, or not, I didn't think so. I'd like to have the city attorney come in and answer these questions, because again, I still believe we're out to punish people that have done no wrong, and blanketly going across everyone. And given last night, the Keel Garage, which is a city-run garage, not a flat garage, you got a sheriff held up at gunpoint, and they take his gun. I still don't understand what putting a fence and all these extra things are going to do. All it's going to do is get somebody else killed. Because if I'm a security guard working that lot, I am surely not going to say, hey, what are you doing? We advise people in the neighborhood, don't challenge anybody breaking in your car for that exact reason. But I'm still have huge issues with this, that we sit down and say we're going to punish multiple people. But I'd like the city attorney to come in, because again, we're I mean, there's my understanding, unless I'm wrong, there's ordinances already out there that should shut down bad operators.
Okay,
Anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
okay, Alderman Bosley, did you have a question or concern?
Yes, ma'am. So my same sentiments as well. That was what I was going to ask in particular with what happened last night. We had a sheriff actually robbed in uniform, had his service weapon taken and his vehicle, I believe right after 12 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning. I mean, that is when most of the occurrences that we are talking about happen. So we're talking about having extra security on these parking lots, and these folks aren't sheriffs. These people aren't from law enforcement. They don't have the necessary connections to be able to call in law enforcement. They're just like a civilian who just has a security job who will call 911 in an instance where there is criminal behavior happening. The thought would be, and I guess the question is, just so we can be clear, are these certified security guards? What identifies a person as the type of security guard that we believe to be the type of guard who will remove some of the issues or eradicate or be actionary to the point where we see this working out in a way where it will prevent most of the occurrences right now that we are reacting to? And, that question is for anybody from the building division. Are we requiring them to have a certain security license? I guess that would be the first question.
The building division doesn't address security guards, Alderman. What we do is talk about parking lot attendants. That's two different complete things there. Now, my assumption is that the responsibility of the parking lot attendant is indeed to, as you said, if he sees any illegal activity, not confront it, but call 911. Get the call to 911 as soon as possible so that the police can show up and react. Without an attendant there, if there's any illegal activity, then of course there's no one there to call 911. But the attendant is not listed anywhere, or do we require an attendant to be a licensed guard, licensed and approved through I believe it's licensed through the Metropolitan Police Department. I heard about that unfortunate situation last night. I don't know exactly where it occurred, but that was scary. Yeah, and now they have this sheriff's officer's, this deputy's gun. So.
Yes, sir. And I do understand so the reason I asked that question, I know you all are definitely not in the security business at all, or, that's not your job to look into what type of certifications individuals have. The idea was just to have the question and answer, which you did a great job of, is just simply saying, hey, that's not our level of expertise as the building division. What we're trying to do and what you all are trying to do, I believe, is ensure that there is eyes there on the parking lot, that there are individuals who could potentially be what we would consider not mandatory reporters, but people who could report what it is that they see. I believe that.
I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. No, because I'm just trying to make the point of that actual, that parking lot attendant's exact job, right? Because we have some parking lots that are, once again, unmanned. They have the kiosks there where you can go and pay. So, the thought would be, if we put cameras on that kiosk, would that be no different from having a parking lot attendant there who would be seeing everything and able to call 911? There are plenty of mechanisms out here right now where you can monitor a parking lot from your home, from a garage, from wherever it is that you could remotely be, and still be able to call 911 without engaging with those potential people who are committing a criminal act. So the thought is, if we have these small lots and some of them aren't, some of them are shy of 50 spaces, and the attendant could easily be $20,000 a year, contingent upon what it is that the wages are and what that person is willing to accept, being in, once again, one of the places downtown that we would consider right now being plagued with criminal activity, in which they would some point in time have to engage if they were put down there potentially to report occurrences that they see. We're putting them in direct response, which what they would potentially be pretty much first responders in responding into direct criminal behavior that is happening on that particular parking lot, and then hoping that law enforcement will have enough time to engage in what would, some things are non-violent acts. Sometimes we have a very difficult problem right now throughout the city with our police department being very short and even getting them to come out for car break-ins. A lot of people experience the police department saying, they don't have the personnel right now, so you have to take that report over the phone. So, as we move forward into thinking about the best way to kind of alleviate ourselves from these issues, I just want us to be completely descriptive in what it is that we are asking of individuals who we are putting and exposing into this fold of I want to say of a problem or issue that we're trying to find a solution to. And at the same time, whatever actions that we impose on, or whatever, steps that we ask for different entities or parking lot owners or individuals that are business owners to take, the steps to help alleviate problems. I think we need to be sure in being able to analytically look at what that looks like with them spending $15,000 or $20,000 on whether it's gates, parking lot attendant. We need to be able to show that eradicated that issue, that $20,000 was worth it, or whatever it is that they could potentially spend, that it is something that has removed that issue to where it isn't causing the city multiple police calls afterward. It isn't causing the city its manpower and other resources that we could be utilizing doing other things. If that is something that we're going to impose on someone else, I think that we need to make sure that what it is that we're asking them to do makes complete sense, so everybody knows what it is the end game and end goal should be. We all want to see these problems reduced, but I do think that there has to be a more in-depth conversation on exactly what our expectations are as well from these different steps or different things that we're imposing on these business owners. So, once again, if it's a parking lot attendant, what is he's going to do more or differently than a, potential camera on a kiosk that somebody could be remotely watching from? Could call 911 as well. So, I guess that's not necessarily a question. That's more of a comment. And, I think that this bill intends to do great things. And I do believe that, as we tweak it, it could potentially have better I would say a more measurable approach, because right now what it is that I read particularly, I don't see that this is actually measurable in terms of us being able to look at 6 months from now, 7 months from now, that we have seen a complete decrease based on these parking attendants being here, when the city itself has hundreds of parking attendants. I myself have worked security in St. Louis City parking garage, and I've chased individuals who walk right upstairs to go break in cars and look at you while they're on their way to do it. They'll do it while security's downstairs. They'll do it while there's a handful of parking attendants there. People are and have been blatant. We're seeing it more, it's more blatant now than it has been, because the teenagers are a little bit younger and, they've been exposed to a little bit more, especially with social media. But I do believe with all of the examples of parking attendants in gated lots right now who have these exact same problems that we're trying to, I would say, eradicate or get rid of, we have to look at what it is they're doing wrong as well. Because if they have enclosed parking garages, some of them are enclosed, like the one right off, what is that? I believe that is, sheesh. So it's right around the corner from the City Museum. It's the large white parking garage. And I'm sorry, the name of it is eluding me right now, but they had to put something up. Hey, big, large sign, lock your valuables up, don't leave your valuables inside the car. People break in. I've seen their signs. I'm sorry, was that me?
No, that was the chair.
So I've seen the signs. Okay, my apologies. So I've seen their signs, and I've also seen multiple parking lots where we have attendants there. And those parking lot attendants still have break-ins. They don't see, and if they do see something, once again, you have the idea now that you could potentially be shot just by engaging in somebody and saying, hey, I got you on camera, get off the parking lot. So, these things, I don't want us to trade one thing for another thing that we believe is going to end up, alleviating a problem that we cause a brand new problem or issue. We don't want to see more shootings happen downtown because we have more people engaging and wanting to be good at what it is that they do. Some folks who are into security, like I said, I've chased somebody out of garage. Now, it's not because I wanted to be a hero, but I was doing my job. So, with that, you'll have other people that are also doing their job. And this is a day and age where that can get you killed, can get you hurt, it can get you shot, it can cause innocent bystanders to get shot. And I don't want us to only, to not move our city forward based on what occurrences could potentially happen. But I just want us to be aware of those things are real instances that happen throughout our city that are not between just regular parking lot attendants. Once again, we had a sheriff that just got robbed in uniform right downtown. So, there has to be other things that we also think about. I don't know if this is all the way the solution in terms of us being able to once again measure our outcome here in the future. I think it's a good start in conversation. But I don't know if it's, and I'm not totally, I talked to Alderman Page this morning, I'm not totally against it, but in its current form, I don't believe that it addresses all the way the issues that we are believing it to address. And I do believe there could be adverse effects to it as well. We see at our gas stations on a regular basis. We ask them to bring security out there. They have security and people still get, gas stations get robbed. Everybody out there selling, just realistically, what are we asking for other than just kind of an extra person to be outside and them to be in an enclosed area and hopefully that they don't feel uncomfortable calling the police. We still don't even have enough dispatchers to answer the phone. We have 15 new parking lot attendants and they all calling about break-ins going on downtown. Once again, it takes 10, 15 minutes for sometimes even those calls to be answered. So if we're gonna be looking into security, maybe we should be looking to hiring off-duty police officers if that's the case. At least they can shoot back. But I'll leave that there for right now. Those are some of the comments I wanted to make. I do have some questions, but I like the rest of the people who are speaking to go ahead and ask questions. But I don't want us to impose any more cost on any individual downtown, whether you're a business owner or a resident, or you just passing through in the name of safety, if we can't measure where that dollar went a year from now and say that, 50% of it worked, we got to figure out how to deal with the other 50. We got to start measuring our outcomes. So with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Alderwoman Boyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But pretty much my colleagues prior to me kind of asked some of the questions that I had, but I think what I'm looking at is the ordinances that we have on the books are obsolete to the crime that we have right now. And so we're trying to use those ordinances to address the crime issues within our city, especially downtown. And they're pretty much obsolete. As everybody knows, building does not have the staffing to do the inspections as should be done because they're short-staffed as on inspectors and staff within the building division. So we all know, because at the last meeting, the conversation was about nuisance. So we know that's not productive. We cannot get that ordinance followed through on, and you have people with the city council that's not giving us accurate information. So right now, I applaud Alderman Page because he's trying to work this. But what I'm suggesting is we have to look at crime the way it is now. And so a lot of the colleagues said, if a sheriff got robbed, what's to stop an attendant from getting robbed and or killed? We don't have the police to be able to answer the calls. We have the sheriff's office down there patrolling, but you see how that's working. So I just think we probably need to hold this and revisit it to get some more information. The city council coming to the table is a great idea, because I just think we're trying to put a Band-Aid on this, and it's not fair to the people that have the businesses. And if they pulled a gun and took the sheriff's gun, what you think they're gonna do to an attendant? And so I don't want somebody losing their lives. And I don't know if people realize those attendants don't get paid a lot of money. So is it worth them getting paid minimum wage to lose their life to try to hold on? And so now another question I have, you have these attendants taking the money. So who's to say they're not going to rob them at gunpoint and take their money? So, you know, it's a lot of holes in this, Alderman Page, and I just think we need to have more dialogue, as the chair say, to make sure that we're doing just for the people that's coming into our city and the business owners that's down there trying to, you know, have the lots for those residents. Thank you.
Okay, Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this time to ask questions. I've been looking through the bill and have a few questions about it. One, in section 5, the surface parking lot requirements. Are some of those already in place, or are these all new requirements that are going to be in writing now? I guess that's to the building division.
Yes, bear with me, ma'am. I'm gonna go to section 5 and take a look at it.
Perfect. So page 3, line 10.
No, we have a lot of these things
Okay.
in place.
And they're in some other part of the code, or just kind of what has been enforced?
I think we talked briefly about this in the past meeting, I'm sorry. When somebody comes in to apply for a new parking lot, there's a application process, of course, and then there's a review process, of course. And then based on the amount of parking spaces, we'll talk about handicap, ADA requirements. We will talk about minimum, which is very important, lighting for the parking lots, because a lot of the parking lot businesses, some do not like to spend the extra money for lighting. And we have some areas of the parking lot that are well lit and some areas that are very dark. And those dark areas is usually where crime happens. And of course, we'll look at the surface runoff of the stormwater and see if a graded inlet is needed, or if it can be discharged off the lot into the street area and then discharged through the sewer and MSD. Striping, of course, minimum amount of structural strength that's needed to hold up the weight of all of these cars, of course, on the surface. There's various things that we look at. So yes, in all honesty, some of these things that you pointed out in section 5, did you say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, section 5.
Section 5 is in play now, but let me look through it once more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Everything's in there.
Yeah, everything's in there.
What's been
Okay.
added.
Yeah, because when I'm looking at it, I feel like a perimeter fence and the height and all of that is new. Or at least not enforced currently. Is there any fencing requirement whatsoever now?
There is fencing requirement. We don't have too much requirements on gates and so forth like that. The fencing requirement comes in based on mostly on areas. I mean, we have other reviews that occur downtown that are separately and different from something that may occur some other place. Part of section 5, one of the new additions to this board bill is I think we've got a commercial general liability insurance that has to be proven annually, which will help protect, I assume, any break-ins or damage or vandalism at the parking lots. So that's a new addition, and I think that
Makes sense.
is, yes, it does make sense. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I think some of the things like services shall be free of potholes, large cracks, and standing water are definitely things we want to have in writing, and the paving and
Correct.
striping. I feel like the things that we're coming back to as to the, what makes sense piece for the businesses and for what is going to prevent issues from happening are the attendant and then the type of fencing. That to me seems to be, as well as whether entry and exit is possible. So that's an interesting one. I found in my experience in the park in my ward, the big park in my ward, Condolet Park, blocking vehicle entrance to the park roads does help with issues overnight with racing and everything in the park. So I think that having entry and exit, if the parking lot is closed, having those closed, if it's not an overnight thing, makes complete sense to me. The type of fencing, I guess, is what I'm tripping over because of the, I think that is where, and the attendant are where the two biggest costs come in for operators. So whether there's a fencing option that makes sense, is affordable. I know some lots that haven't had any issues have different types of fencing or have put in fencing that might not meet this exactly, but have helped with the issues that they've had on the lot. Okay, scrolling down or flipping pages. How much does the occupancy permit for a lot like this cost?
Oh, well, I think and I may probably going to misspeak on this. I apologize.
Okay.
I'm so much into the enforcement part. I know it's going to be in chapter 1 under the permit fees. I'm going to just roughly say it's under $200. It may be about 150-ish, and I don't have a precise dollar amount. I apologize.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's, one of the things that I think is very frustrating with something like this, if there's a problem on a lot like that, is if they've paid $200 yet are taking thousands of dollars of city time, police work, the alderman's time. I mean, all of these things add up. They're all costs. Every time that a police officer comes to one of these lots, instead of going to another incident, anytime someone at a 911 call center is taking this call and instead of taking another call, it's costing the city money and resources. And so I'd be interested in what that fee should be based on the amount of money that these lots are making, because that's something that I'd be interested in knowing more about. Maybe that's a assignment for Alderman Page if you're interested in helping me find out that information, just to learn more about this bill. And then going further into it regarding the inspections and the revoking or denying of a renewal of a permit. One of the things I think we all have experience with and don't want to see happen is vacancy. If there is an empty lot that has no one paying attention to at all and no business occurring, I'm not sure that becomes a better situation than it was when it was a parking lot. So I'd be interested in seeing what fee structure could be considered here, because if there are issues that occur again, when the issues occur, they do cost the city money to investigate them, to enforce laws, all of that. And I know that kind of similarly in dealing with vacant properties in the 13th ward, a lot of the, I think, issues with problem properties and in dealing with vacant housing is because the way our problem property law works in the city of St. Louis is that the end thing that can be done, or is like the punishment, is removing an occupancy permit. If you have a vacant property, no one living there, or perhaps just, you know, a squatting situation, there's no occupancy permit to remove. So that process of like, what are the punishments, you know, along the way for bad actors that actually benefit the city of St. Louis in the long run? That would be something that I'd be interested in maybe going a little deeper into in this bill, and having different kind of fee structures built in here. I did ask someone who sent me an email in support of this bill, you know, is this something you really think every lot needs, or is it just problem property lots? And he sent me back a list of lots that he sees as problem properties. So I'd be interested in forwarding those along and just seeing what actions have been taken in each of those lots already. You know, I think a lot of what's in this bill is, you know, more than reasonable, having things paved, having safe entrances and exits. But I'm also interested in making sure that we're addressing the problems and the issues that are occurring now simultaneously. And if this is going to help, I think that's a good thing, and that safety must be paramount, of course. Just doing it in a way that I think gets us to the point where we're actually getting something that is beneficial at the end of the day for the people who live around there and for the city that is enforcing it. I think those are all my questions for now. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Alderwoman Phil. Alderwoman Peel. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
It takes me a while to go to unmute, so yeah.
Well, I've been switching back between my big computer, my desktop, and then when whatever's going on with my what is it? The link to my desktop, then I go to my iPad. So that's what the problem is. I don't know where I'm at right now. Okay, I'm on my iPad now. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. The questions that I have, going back to Alder Bosley, thank you. At the end of your discussion, you talked about measurements and outcomes, and I wanted to talk about that. So I will reaffirm that regarding, I feel it's important that we see that. And so I would love to get some statistics regarding, I'd like to address Treasure Lane. I think this is a good example that we do have city parking lots that are also surface parking lots. And I'm just going to talk about the particular one in the 17th Ward, which is on Manchester, next to Sauce on the side. And that parking lot has numerous safety issues. And it was this year, early this year, or late last year, Treasure Lane and I and the police officer, the captain, Marks, and several other people did an hour walkabout on that parking lot because of the safety issues. That particular parking lot has cameras on it. It is automated. I don't think it has a gate. We did talk about putting a gate up. I would love to know from Treasure Lane whether we have measured outcomes regarding each time we put another safety layer in it, like more cameras or something like that. Do we have information about the safety issues on that particular lot, so that we can measure when we put maybe more protocols in place that this is working? So I think this is a great example. We have a city parking lot. We don't have to, rely on the business owners. So that's one of my questions. Another question would be and it might be in the board bill, is I think that the city, with all our surface parking lots, we need to hold ourselves accountable. So is this just for business owners, or is this also going to be applying for the city of St. Louis surface parking lots? And again, my example is the one in the 17th Ward in the Grove, which has numerous issues. So I will go to Treasure Lane to see if he could fill in some of the holes.
I'm sorry, Alderwoman, you're not allowed to go to Treasurer Lane. That's my job. When you get to be here 31 years, then you can do that, but you can't do that now, okay? But he is going to come up and you will be welcome to ask him questions. Right now, we're asking questions of
Mr. Copeland and Mr. Ware, so,
Okay, well, I will.
but he'll be here, the next person, okay?
Okay, I will
Okay.
end my questions because the questions more apply in a broader sense. So I will stop there.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Vaccaro, I see your hand is up again.
Well, actually, just, can I comment one last time? No.
Sure, you can always comment. You got a lot of
Um,
years here.
Well, so, we talk about gates and it just, seems like every time there's a big event downtown, when I go to get in my parking spot the next day, the gates are broke. I mean, not just broke. I mean, they're taped back on because they're tore off. So I don't know that, even gates, and I think we lost the chairwoman there, but I just don't think gates are even an answer to this. What I would suggest is that I think we should either set this bill aside and move forward with something different. I think if we're going to try to do this during major events, and we can let the city determine that these lots hire off-duty police officers rather than security. I mean, including the city lot. But anyway, it's just when we're talking about gates, I just know that it seems like every time there's something big, concerts or whatever downtown, and I guess the treasurer could talk to that, but it seems like them gates get tore off pretty quick. Anyway, it's just a comment, and then I'll sit back and listen. I might have something at the end of all this.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Vaccaro. And so the last person we have of city official and staff is the treasurer, Adam Lane. So, Mr. Lane, I had already read your letter because I didn't think you were coming, but if anything that you have to add verbally, and then you see there's a couple of aldermen that want to ask you a question, you are recognized.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of this committee. I'm sorry I was a little tardy to the party, but I did take notes on everything that you all said and all the concerns that you all had. I won't reiterate what I stated in the letter, but I did want to speak to a lot of the things that you all said. I guess I kind of think of this conversation when we think about police. If we had I know our police are, I guess we're understaffed and they're underpaid. I do think that if our police force was fully staffed, maybe double staffed, and it got twice as much pay, that doesn't mean that crime wouldn't happen. So I urge you all to think, yes, we are looking at not making sure that we would love to have zero car break-ins, zero robberies on lots and garages, but what we are looking to do is make it not easy. One of the things that I've been doing for the last year with all of my staff is meeting department by department, and that includes all of our garages one-on-one to hear what their lots and garage, to hear what their concerns are. And their biggest thing is they understand that there are people going to be breaking in. Like Alderman Peel was saying, we did go visit the lot in the garage, and that's when the police chief captain, forget the designation, was letting us know, like, they have the camera, they have the light, and we can see people are just going car by car, but they have the easy access. So the biggest thing I want to say is the deterrence. So if we can increase the number of deterrents, we can reduce the amount of break-ins. And I think that's the goal, is for people to feel like they are safer when they are parking and using our lots and facilities. That is the goal. And what my garage staff was telling me, especially at one of our garages where we do have a lot of break-ins, which is a combination of a surface and garage facility, is that people see it as an easy target because there are no mechanisms in place, because they know the gate is up, there's no attendant, they can just go in and go out, they can be in and out in 10 minutes, and they will literally search every window of the cars because there's no one there. So does this mean that it'll go down to zero if there is an attendant there, if there is security there? Absolutely not. But if we can make it less easy for bad actors to act badly, I think that we should always take that into consideration. And I do think fencing is a deterrent. Cameras are a deterrent. Lighting is a deterrent. I think Alderman Bosley was talking about why can't we just have a camera there? And I already spoke to this, but that Alderman Peel spoke about has a camera. We can clearly see them, but the police representatives were letting us know the limitations to what they can do in terms of chasing, in terms of how long they can hold someone for that anyway. And they let us know that there are people who, these criminals, they know how long it'll take for them to get out. They know how long, if they get locked up and detained, how long it'll take for them to get right back out on the street. So they know the system. So yes, it is a comprehensive look at it, but knowing that those things are happening, if there are ways that we can have people park on these lots as safely as possible, I think we should always take that. One of the things that I will say to my previous point, so I did have a concern about the same concern I think you were saying, Alderman Schweitzer, is that we don't want to just have now these abandoned lots, people like, I'm not going to pay the cost. Was able to speak with folks on this call and listen to testimony from when I had to leave to say, we are making those private entities, being the we are making money off these lots. It is our duty to the city to make sure that we secure them and that they are as safe as possible. And perfect example, if STL resident goes and parks on a St. Louis lot, or they're a monthly parker and their car gets broken into every single day, yes, they have the option to leave, but because of liability, because of insurance, that garage or lot owner still gets paid. So it's not that, well, every break-in, I don't pay any more money, which means I don't have the ability to improve it. Those lot owners still are making their money. And this is what the private lot owners were assuring me of. They're still getting their money. But now that resident, that citizen is now bearing the cost of replacing the window. Maybe they have full coverage, maybe they don't, so on and so forth. But I do think there is an approach. There are things that we can do to make sure that they are as safe as possible. Even as I think Alderman Bosley was saying as well, with these attendants having cash, one of the things that we've moved to is making sure that we have cashless pay, especially at events, so that we can say this is a non-cash facility or as cash-free of a facility as possible, so that those people know not going to get any money here. If you think you're going to get money, it's not going to be a lot. And we also don't ask our attendants to play, Cape Crusader on the lots as well, but we do put in protocol, and they have, actually it's my staff, and I commend my staff and I appreciate them. They have let us know. I asked them, what do you all see? What are the things that are working and not working? And what do you think would help? And we've been able to write those things down, and we're looking to put things into place. So overall, and I'll close up with this, there are a lot of things that we can do, and I think this bill is a step in the right direction. And I'll entertain any questions that you all have.
Okay. My Vice Chair, Alderman Bosley, do you have any questions or concerns for the treasurer?
You're on mute.
Can't hear you. Alderman Bosley, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can. You unmuted yourself.
Okay, sorry about that. But so I do once again understand the importance of us having attendance. And I know, and I would say this, I guess it's a question to Treasurer Lang. With an increase in the amount of crimes that we've seen downtown, people's cars being broken into, problems and issues that we have with unmanned parking lots. I know that the city has maybe one or two. I know you have one in Soulard that does not have a gate around it. It's right around the corner from Domino's. I forget what street it's on. Right, it's right next to the Soulard Market. Are you familiar with that parking garage?
Yes, sir.
Do you all have any reports of break-ins there at all?
I'd have to check, but I would say we have reports of break-ins on all our lots.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I said I'd have to check into the numbers, and that was a point I left out from Alderman Peel about getting that data, but I believe we have all the lots that we've had break-ins on.
Understood. And that's the information that will be good to know because we have like the largest, I believe, the largest amount of parking lots in Diddy. So, we also employ security. We also employ the most, I would hope, parking lot attendants if we have the most lots as well. So it'd be good to be able to look at that data and say that what it is that we're doing, we're asking everybody else to do because it is a good model. And it is something that we have spent not only taxpayers' dollars on, but those individuals who are business owners as well are taxpayers too. Whether they live within the city or not. I don't mean residents or taxpayers, they pay taxes as well. So with that, if we're a good steward ourselves and saying, hey, we want you to invest an extra 18,000 or whatever it is you're going to invest in these gates, because we did it. We made sure that this is a model that you can follow and it works for us. We don't have multiple calls for service like you do. The city has done what it needs to do, and it utilized your dollars as well while you're having business owners not business owner, but while you're having your people come and patronize your business, the customers who are concerned also about the valuables in their vehicle. We did something about that as a city. And with that, we've noticed a complete decrease in what it is that could have potentially plagued the same individuals who are coming for events just to park their vehicle and come back to the safety of their vehicle with the things left intact the way that they left it prior to them, getting out and going to that event. The city's done what it is it needs to do to be able to eliminate that, or not eliminate it, at least see a decrease in it, because I don't think we'll ever get to a point where it's completely eradicated. She's inside. Okay. I don't think we'll ever get to a place, because people are always going to find a way to steal or do things like that. But when we make any or impose any extra cost, I believe, on anybody, we need to be able to justify that as a city and saying that we don't think this will work. We have seen this work. And with that being something that we could substantially say, we'll stand behind because it's something that we can prove that we've done at the same time, it makes these conversations much easier because it doesn't put the entire city at that place where, hey, we all are just kind of nitpicking and trying to figure out. And I don't believe that this is what's going on. So I want to be clear with that. I don't think you're doing that at all, or Alderman Page. But it doesn't put us all under this one blanket saying that everything needs to change at one particular time because nothing is working. There are lots out there that does not have as many break-ins as other lots, right? So to impose the exact same changes that you see that need to be made in one particular place based on, because some lots don't even have clubs around it or bars around it or certain establishments that allow crowds to gather, where we see these particular instances of crime happening to where, it's a regular thing. Some folks only have one break-in a year or something like that. So with that, they shouldn't be in the position where we're saying, hey, now you got to put up a gate. Maybe they made changes. Maybe there was a personal break-in that happened. Things are within our city. It's very personal. And that's just being real. People like to go where they like to go until they're pushed out of that particular place and then they go somewhere else. We see that happen all the time. We don't really get rid of crime. We just push it to somewhere else and then we go address it when it reconvenes in a place where we can gather up a bunch of people at one time. So with that being said, Treasurer Lane, I think you are doing a great job in where you have been in this position and the different changes that have been made. And, the mayor has done an excellent job as well, being able to create an environment where these changes can be made. But as we do these particular things, remember, and I want you to remember, no disrespect, but your office is a little bit ahead of kind of the rest of the city. You all have really, really pushed out technology as being, like you just said, you're trying to, remove actual cash, like period. Most of our offices aren't doing that and it's not mandatory. So with those things being said, we have to get the rest of the city on that same accord as we're trying to push everybody out here to do all these things that we believe will kind of remove these instances of car break-ins and all these people breaking in cars with an iPhone charger right now. And that's not going to stop, anybody who wants to get to your vehicle, which is why we're seeing thousands of cars being taken within our city in a short amount of time. So no matter how many times you call the police right now, these people can spend $20,000, $18,000. What the attendant going to do? He's going to jump in front of the car? You just said yourself, that you're not encouraging your folks to go out here and be like, superintendent, because we know that that's dangerous. And we are also encouraging our police not to do the same thing because you put other people in danger. So, we're at that place where we have to figure out things beyond just parking. What happens in the event where we actually do get parking to a place where people are comfortable, and then you have 2 or 3 folks out there opposed to the thousands of cars getting stolen? It's 100 or 10 or 15. We still gonna have these same conversations and saying, what can we do to make it safer, regardless of whether it's 5 people getting their cars stolen or 7 people, and then it goes down to 3. You're gonna always have those 3 people that are hurt that are saying, what could the city have done better? Crime is alive, it's not dead. And as it continues to evolve, we gotta evolve at the same time. We're never going to eradicate this, and having conversations that put us in positions to where we think that we have the ability to do so. And I'm not saying that this is, but conversations that lead up to that thought, is what puts our residents and everybody else at that place where they feel like we're not doing much. I believe that, realistically, if somebody went out here and stole a car on a lot right now and a parking attendant saw it, called the police, and the police got there, the question is, what happens afterwards? Because if he still gets to get away with that car, if he still gets to drive up the highway safely, if he still gets to go to his destination while that person who watched him steal the car, which is the attendant that we're saying needs to be paid by these parking lot owners who are calling the police. And we can see that everybody's calling the police right now. And the police are saying, not only we're not getting paid enough, you all aren't giving us enough. The rules are skewed in a way where we don't know what to do. All right, you called us. We saw this car. We saw it pull off the lot. We know this car isn't owned by the person who's been, at question at this point. What do we do after that? And that's what it comes down to. That's where people have to feel safe at. It's not just parking your car on the lot. It's what happens after somebody breaks into your vehicle. The preventative piece is something that we've already tried. We got parking lot attendants all over the city. Just having somebody watch your car, we already know it's not good enough. The questions come, it really comes down to what happens in the event that somebody actually steals a car off of one of these gated lots with a parking attendant, and how it is that they can protect that person's valuables after that has happened. And then the word goes out and people say, I'm not going to steal from that lot no more. They don't play no games over there. I'm going to another lot, not there. There has to be a significant change in what people feel like they can do within the area in which they're doing it at. In our city, downtown, whether you're doing parking, whether you a sheriff right now at this point, we had a person robbed at the gas station right next door to the police station just this week, robbed it in broad daylight. So, I appreciate the conversation about us trying to get to a point where we can make downtown safer, but we got to be realistic in when we are asking people to foot a cost. Now, if this wasn't cost associated, I wouldn't be saying anything about it. I'd say, let's go pay for everybody to have a gate, if that's what we're going to do. Let's pay for everybody to have a gate, and let's put $1 million behind a parking attendant for the next year, and let's make it a pilot program and find out whether or not it's working or not. Now, that makes sense. Now, we need to pay these parking attendants good, because they know they're coming out here in the storm that we say is kind of brewing around the city, where you got hundreds of cars being stolen, and just within the last 2 weeks, you had 18 businesses being broke in, some of them by the same people, and we still ain't caught them folks. Like, this is a real thing, and we got to make sure that when we putting people in a position to say, go out here and protect these cars, it's a car over life. And it's not, and none of us feel that way. But we're not saying these people need to go out.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'm gonna do something very unusual, because we're trying to wrap it up and we got some other things. We're not gonna vote this out today, obviously, because we are gonna bring the city councilor in. People have asked that. So I would ask if you could limit your comments, and we'll be back here next week with this very same thing, or the week after, when we can get the city councilor before us, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I appreciate it, because we got a couple of hands, and then we got some people that need to testify. And then we have a public safety meeting, of which I am the vice chair and Alderman Vaccaro is the chair. I think you're on, several other people. So we're trying to make a couple of meetings.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, Alderman Vaccaro.
And I'll keep it brief. Madam Chair, would the treasurer
he is before you already. He doesn't have to yield.
Okay, cool. So Treasurer Lane, first off, yeah, I agree, you're doing a good job. I also like your comment about the cost and, I do think, we should start with our city lots. And I do think we should use some of the COVID money that, to start there and revisit this a year or so from now, after we have a good test of if this really works. Couple things. I know you had said in your letter, you had talked to some of the parking lot owners. I'm just curious, which lots were they? Were they downtown? I mean, do you have a list of those? Can you send us a list of those?
Sure, I can send you a list.
Okay, how many lots was it?
I don't know. So I don't know how many they own.
Okay. You just send, yeah, I'd like to know, and just curious. And then that incident with the sheriff, that was the Keel garage. Was he actually on duty guarding the Keel garage at the time in uniform? It seemed like that's what I
I'm sorry, there's a truck passing by. Could you say that one more time?
I'm sorry.
Was he?
It seemed like I understood from the news that the sheriff was there as a guard, as working at the Keel garage. So, and that's a city garage. So and tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm going by the news. But it seems like we hired a sheriff, an armed sheriff, to guard the garage. And even at that, he was held up at gunpoint, lost his car and his gun. And I'm not blaming him, because let me just tell you, if somebody put a gun to my head, then I'm going to tell you that comply is the right thing to do. We don't need to have a police officer or a sheriff shot, because at the end of the day, it just doesn't help. But I'm sure there's probably good video of this also, I would assume, is there? So, and I'm not going to make the police, I don't want to get into a police case. But even with all that in place, even with an armed guard in uniform, not just even a guard, but a sheriff, which I have a lot of respect for those guys. A lot of those now are post-certified to have been held up. I just don't see in my wildest dreams that gates and, I just don't see it. But I agree with what you said at the last meeting. And I agree with what Alderman Bosley is saying. Why don't we start with ourselves, revisit this in another year or so? I would, although it's up to the chair, she'd take a motion to table this, but I would love to just table this thing and move on and reintroduce a bill that starts with us, that provides the proper funding to get this done with our garages and lead. But that's up to the chair if she would take a motion. I'm not going to make one without that's her call.
Well, people, Alderman Vaccaro, people have asked for the city council to come, and you were one of them. So at least I want to have chance for the city council to come, and then we're not going to vote it out today. Okay, so I want everybody to have their questions as much as possible answered. Then we'll see what we'll do. Is that all right?
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's
okay.
Right with your, so that's just my comments. And of course, I'd like to know the things. And I strongly believe that, we start with ourselves. If you come by my house, my grass is cut, my house is painted, I encourage, like I put a deck on my house, I pulled a permit, I try to lead by doing the right thing myself. And then, and I still strongly believe that if there's a problem lot downtown, in my neighborhood, whether it's a gas station, a problem lot, a house, that we need to act on those. And I also know that I agree that the building division is somewhat restricted, because I have problem houses in my neighborhood that the building division's written up and everything else, but it seems like the city councilor's office seems to either not do anything or give them a break, or give them, the last one, they gave them 3 months, and at the end of 3 months, I'm getting calls now, there's gunshots at the house. So we need to rethink a whole lot of stuff. And I am certainly willing to work with Alderman Page and yourself and the city councilor and whoever, if we choose to lead by doing it ourselves first, by using COVID money and, you know, and coming up with what the real solution is. This is kind of throwing, if you ask me, and I know the bad saying, so I'll say it differently, but this is like just trying to throw mud to a wall and see what sticks. But I think there was a different, but I don't want to get myself in trouble. I always get, but I just don't see this as a solution. I see this as a feel-good measure that is not workable. But I certainly look forward to working with you and city councilor and Alderman Page on a board bill that would make sense. And I think we start with ourselves first. And I would agree with Alderwoman Schweitzer. This is a building division thing. If there's potholes on a parking lot, and we should be citing them and giving them the whatever 30 or 90 days or whatever it is to patch those. That is in your purview to get that stuff done. And, you know, we want that done. I mean, man, Chair, I'll ramble, so I'm going to go ahead and jump off because I agree we got things to do.
Thank you. Alderwoman Peel.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I had some questions for Treasurer Lane. I'm going to go back to that now that I can ask you the questions. Let's see. My first, we'll go to the Grove property that we know. Have you measured the outcomes or the in previous years, has there been measurement of outcomes when there have been safety improvements put on that lot, like cameras? I think there was something that was maybe put on more cameras in the last month or two. I know when we did our walkabout, we were looking at putting another camera or two.
Mm-hmm.
So have we seen it? So have we seen a
cameras.
decrease in crime and stuff like that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cameras and lighting. So I'd have to, and one of the things I can do with my parking division, I can send this out to everyone, is just compile what that has looked like and just look at our incident reporting, given the changes that we've made to not even just our surface lots, but all of our lots and garages. And I can make sure that this body has that information. I will say one of the things that we are doing in conjunction with that conversation over the last 5-6 months is doing inventory of all our lots, assessing all the safety concerns that we've got, because I get a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls when these things happen, and rightly so. People are upset. People, have valuables. It can be very violating to walk out to your car and you just see glass on the floor and your belongings stolen. So yes, I can get that data and look at what we've done over the years. But I will also say that we're looking to make some pretty big wholesale changes to the lots. So I've personally gone out to every single lot with my team, done the walk arounds to see what are the safety concerns, what are the issues, and what do we think will actually work to deter those longstanding issues that we've seen. So I look forward to having more data subsequently about what has worked. I think there also, I know there are a bunch of lot owners on this property as well that have probably made improvements. So I think if we can look at that comprehensively, it'd be great too.
Great, thank you. I would love to have that information before the next hearing regarding this. And I would love to see, in terms of measurements, is, we installed the camera on August, 7th, so-and-so, and then, so we know kind of the longitudinal measurement and not just say, oh yeah, this improved by so much, but we need to see, this is when this protocol was put into place, or this enhancement was put in place. And then longitudinally, we could really measure what's happening and not just give us these numbers and say, yeah, so I'd like to make sure that we can verify that this is kind of accurate. That would be wonderful in terms of your report. The other.
Yep, and I can get my team on that. So my my facilities crew, they're the ones who put in the improvements, and then we can just track those dates, and they keep track of all of that very meticulously. So I can get that. I can also say, because we talked about, you know, people walking around in the garages in terms of monitoring. We did have roving security. We had a security agency that we did use. They were not good about, one, showing up, and two, actually doing the walkarounds. And that's when we actually went to approve, I think it was last year, a contract with the sheriff's office to do that. So I can also track just what situations we've had and not had now that we have a consistent, and the sheriff's office does an amazing job, but consistent quality security at our events.
That is wonderful, thanks. And do you know if I know the Grove CID has, you know, their safety and security arm in terms of private police. So are you working with them too, or with Jim White?
We haven't, no.
Okay. And then my other questions for you, and I don't know who this best is for, but I'll just ask you, what are the best practices nationally? You know, how do other cities mitigate this surface parking lot issue? So I'm wondering if you have looked at that in terms of what other cities are doing, or even locally, right? You know, so to mitigate these safety issues, because it's not just in St. Louis that this is happening.
Yeah, and that's something I can look into. I think the closest examination that we've done, we can get more info, is Chicago, looking at their lots, which are always full and always expensive, but a lot of their lots are actually 24-hour lots. And especially in their downtown, their loop area, we've asked for their information, but that's something I can look into as well. So we know it's a little bit of a different, situation and scenario where they do have attendance. There are lots that are 24-hour lots. They have attendants on there. They use the pay station. So you don't have, even if they have an attendant, there's no cash being transacted with the attendant, or no way the attendant can actually access the cash, which doesn't make the attendant, doesn't make them a target. And then after a certain time, you might have a regular, civilian attendant employee up until about 11:30 midnight. And then from midnight to 6 a.m., 7 a.m., it's a security guard or armed officer.
Thank you.
But I don't have the numbers on like the crime statistics, but I will.
Okay, thank you. Another question I had, and I think I lost that question. Yeah, I lost it. I was about to say, I lost
You're
it.
too young for that.
Yeah, so how many lots do you have attendance on, and how many lots are automated, fully automated?
So we have, we have no, I wouldn't call them fully automated lots. I would say it would be to me, it would be automated if, we had a gate and it was operating that way. But we have, because I have to take out the garages, probably, we don't have any lots that are just automated, but we do have lots that there's no attendant there. So I would say we have about 4 or 5 lots that are surface lots that are not attended.
It would be wonderful when you give us information. I would love to know, how many city lots are there? Would love to know that just in general. And then I just remembered my question. When you look at the research of maybe Chicago, I would suggest that maybe you look at Baltimore, because Baltimore has a lot of this. It's kind of similar to St. Louis in some respects. So that might be a city, or, looking at other cities that are similar. So Baltimore has a lot of the same issues that we have with many different things. So that is a suggestion.
Absolutely. And thank you for the suggestion. And yes, I can provide this body with all of our lots that we own, how they're attended, what technology we have there, and the improvements that have been made over the years on those specific lots.
Okay, great. And yeah, measurement of outcomes is really important for me to kind of evaluate this right now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. We are not going to hear this bill next week because we are running behind. We got a lot of issues about refuse. And so when we finish with hearing the people that are here today, we're gonna skip a week and so just to let you know, Treasurer Lane, you got another week to work on it because we have to bring refuse in here. We're not gonna have enough time after we have the people that speak. Mr. Brightonville, hello? Hello? Nope.
Sorry about that. Hi, Madam Chair, I'm here.
I don't want to waste any more of your time because we still got people that need to testify. And then we got another committee hearing after this. So what I'm going to do is send you a written list of things that we need to have information about, okay? And then I'm going to send it to the director too. And next week, I don't care what the director's saying she's going to be doing. She's going to be sitting in front of my committee and you will too. But I want to let you go. I'm sorry. It took up a little bit more time than I thought. And this is an important issue, but trash refuse is also a very important issue. And next week, we're going to be doing that and we're going to be doing speed humps. And I'm even going to hold my own board bill because I want to make sure we get this one fully heard. And then anything that needs to be addressed from the city councilors on Board Bill 80 will come not next week, but the week afterwards. But I will expect to see you guys back here next week. And I'm sorry that if I had known it was going to take this long, I would have released you immediately. So I'm so sorry, Mr. Brightonville.
No, that's no problem. I'll be there for sure.
Okay, so we'll see you next week, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All righty. So Treasurer Lane. Hello? Treasurer Lane.
Yep, still here.
Okay, good. So thank you for your testimony. I don't, unless the Alderman from the 5th needs you, I don't think we'll, you're gonna be bringing stuff back here, I guess, but you can also send it to us. And like I said, it won't be next week, it'll be the week after. But I do want to do a follow-up on a conversation we had for a minute. And that is the City of St. Louis Direct Cash Assistance Program, which you and I had a conversation in which I had asked you to get me certain information. And you were supposed to get it to me and I never got it. And I want to know what happened to it.
You still haven't gotten it?
No, I've never gotten it. I asked him by ward. I still want it by ward. While I was in the hospital, I saw the mayor declare victory and that it was successful. So I saw that she had that data, but it was by not what I asked for, which was zip code. So I have not gotten it. I got this summary and that's it. And so I'm going to give you another chance to give me that information. And I will also send you a copy of the city charter, which says that as the chair of this committee, I have a right to all things that the mayor or the comptroller can have. And that if you make me, let me say again, I have no problem. And I've told you this, I will subpoena you and put a body attachment to you. And I will subpoena the records and get them directly. You do not get to go around me, okay? I have as much right as you or the mayor. In fact, probably more because I've been elected a lot of times, okay? And so I don't like when I don't get information that I asked for because I told you before, it's not a got you. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with it. And I don't like people who declare victory to keep me from having what I want because I don't want it for Sharon personally. I want it because I represent a large constituency and I'm still getting questions every day until to this very day. I want you to know, I have not run into one person in the 1st ward who has told me they got that $500. And that is very concerning because I'm in office so long. I know a lot of people, not one has said it. In fact, every day I talk to them, they still say to me, well, who got that money? So I'm going to be sending you a written request. And I expect that now it's going to be, I want the whole file because then we'll hire our own person to put it under ward by wards because I think that was a game played and I don't like it. And when I see the mayor having all this press conference stuff, that doesn't mean anything to me. This is my 6th mayor. You declaring victory doesn't mean it's so, okay? Okay?
All
So
right,
I
Alderman Tyus,
expect
I'll make sure I get that.
I expect my
I'll add to you.
documents. Thank you. And I don't have anything else for you and I appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
So now we have Les Sturman. Mr. Sturman, I'm sorry it took so long.
I thought I was gonna be able to make it move along faster, but you are recognized as a speaker, and I think you are you speaking as in support? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, you have the floor. You are recognized.
Thank you
Our
very
board
much, Chairwoman Tyus, members of the committee. By the way, on the screen, it's shown as my affiliation is with the East West Gateway Council of Governments. I've been retired from East West Gateway for a number of years now. Although I appreciate being associated with the organization, I'm speaking today as a private citizen.
Okay.
I live at 1120 Locust Street in downtown, lived here for over 17 years now. And as I mentioned, I'm here in support of Board Bill 80. I did testify last week in support of the bill, but my purpose in testifying today is to address what I think were some serious misunderstandings that came out of the hearing last week. First, I think it's important to understand the purpose of this proposed ordinance and why it came about. Over the last several years, most paid parking lots have replaced the tenants with payment kiosks and cell phone apps. So nearly all of the lots, at least those downtown, are unattended. And I'm sure that laying off attendants and replacing them with machines, saves a lot of money. But that is resulted in unintended consequences, including large groups congregating on these completely open and unsecure lots at night, gunfire, fireworks, and worse. I think as Alderman Schweitzer made reference to, there are public costs for these insecure lots, whether it's additional police services or the quality of life impacts on the neighbors, such as me. At the hearing, and again today, it was noted that city ordinance requires lots to be staffed. Based on my observation, this ordinance simply isn't enforced. The very large lot outside my window surrounding my building is completely unattended. Yes, there are cameras, but that's not a substitute for on-site security. Lot attendants and physical improvements to secure the lot. There has to be somebody on the other end of those cameras watching the video, and obviously it's a supplement to security. They don't provide security alone. Board Bill 80 simply provides for physical and operational measures to secure access to unattended paid parking lots at all hours of the day and night. There were some misstatements last week about which parking lots are affected. Only those parking lots that charge the public a fee to park are covered in this proposed ordinance. So lots for which there is no fee to park and which serves an adjacent business establishment are exempt from the requirements of this bill. So parking lots, church parking lots, grocery stores, shopping centers, office buildings that are privately owned and free are totally exempt from the requirements of this bill. And the bill only requires physical barriers for lots in downtown and a few other large commercial areas like certain streets in the Central West End and the Grove, for example, that Alderwoman Peel was referring to. The bill does not require owners to put in gates to control ingress and egress. Owners have the option of providing an attendance to control access to the lot. However, there must be a means of securing the lot when an attendant is not on duty. Certainly, there may be ways of securing parking lots other than fencing, but they need to be effective and not simply cosmetic to create the illusion of security. It was suggested last week that problematic lots could be addressed through the nuisance property process. I think, as you all acknowledge, that process is long and costly and very expensive for citizens to pursue. The burden to do this really shouldn't be placed on citizens. This is a function of our local government. There was also some suggestion that public funds should be provided to make needed improvements to the lot. First, let me say that all of the city-owned lots in downtown are already in compliance with Board Bill 80, so there would be no cost to the city for the lots downtown. There may be some costs associated with lots in other areas of the city, but for the most part, downtown, the city's The city's lots are operated well. I think Treasurer Lane does a great job in operating those lots. So there's really no cost to the city for the downtown lots, at least. Second, if lots owners have caused their lot to become attractive nuisances because they no longer have a tenants or any kind of physical security, it just doesn't seem reasonable to me for the public to bear the cost of the choice that they've made, basically to save money. We also know that lot owners who have provided additional security have been able to recover those costs by charging customers who are now parking for free at night in many lots, including the one behind my building, by the way. After mid-afternoon, people effectively park free there. They don't, I watch them, they don't utilize the payment kiosks, they don't pay monthly fees. I have neighbors who park in that lot free, they don't pay anything. If the lot was secured, that wouldn't be possible. As I said last week, controlling access to large surface parking lots will not fix every problem. You've had a lot of discussions today about that. There simply is no perfect solution. But we do have evidence from existing secure lots that problems are significantly reduced. I think Alderman Peel makes a good point. We need data, and I think we have some data, and we can provide that to the committee. Security on parking lots can only be fixed with a combination of physical measures and effective law enforcement. This bill addresses the physical measures. I would also respond to Alderman Vaccaro's suggestion that we basically wait another year to do something about this. As residents of downtown, we've been pushing for this for 3 years and finally have basically worked with Alderman Page to write a bill. There is no perfect solution, but we think this is an important step in the right direction, and waiting another year just to do anything seems to me to be pretty unreasonable at this point. Madam Chairwoman, I'd be happy to answer any questions from you or the committee members.
Thank you. Alderman Vaccaro is left, I think, and he just has his hand up. Is there any committee members that have a question of Mr. Sturman? Are there any committee members that have a question? Anybody who is an alderperson that's not on the committee, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you before, that has a question? Okay, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and you've come here a couple of times, so you're really dedicated to this. I like to see citizens like that. Okay, in opposition, taking turns, it is Eddie Poor. Are you still here? Had to leave. Eddie Poor?
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
Chairwoman, I'm here. I'm not sure if it's appropriate, but since I was so long-winded on the last one, I was wondering if we could have David Sweeney go prior to me, and then I was going to follow up with a shorter speech.
Yes, and now you are saying that this lawyer right here will be more short-winded than you. I don't know. I'm kind of not a fan of lawyers.
I agree with you on that, Madam
Oh,
Chair.
well, that was a trap, okay? I'm a lawyer, okay? So now.
Well aware.
Okay, so, all right, if that's okay with you, you were here first. I want to make sure you had a chance.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sweeney, you are recognized.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee and other people that are here. Honestly, I kind of, after today's testimony, have more questions than I had before here. And I want to thank the treasurer for coming and the building division from the commissioner. And I know he's not here, but he's always been great to work with, as well as Mr. Ware and Mr. Copeland. And I here to represent a series of parking lot owners or people that have parking lots: Ballpark Village, Lodging, Hospitality Management, Premier Parking in Missouri, St. Louis Parking, and Union Service Parking as a registered lobbyist. So I want to, and that's public information. So, and as far as I'm aware, none of my clients had spoken to Treasurer Lane. So we would love to sit down with him and talk about our concerns. So I hopefully can set that up. Really, starting with the testimony by Mr. Ware, a lot of answers were led by the words "I guess" multiple times. And that's concerning to me because there shouldn't be any I guesses. This is a significant piece of legislation, not only for the residents that are concerned about it, but also for my clients. And I'm really concerned when we don't know how processes are going to work. You know, quote, another quote, businesses are dealt with differently. Well, that's problematic. The Madam Chairwoman, you know, as an attorney, that it doesn't work that way. It can't work that way. And quite honestly, the people I probably represent are the good actors for the most part, right? They're here right now. They're spending the time working here and trying to come up with a plan that we can have work for everyone. It's not the folks that don't manage their properties. I mean, I listed my clients. I'd be surprised to see if those are the bigger issues. And I could be wrong. I don't stand here to say for sure. However, I mean, we have current laws that right now says parking lots are to be paved. There are parking lots downtown that are not paved right now, that are gravel. And that's been on the books for 10 years. And so that continues to go. My clients are going to do the right thing. They're going to do what the law says, but we have things on the books right now that aren't being enforced. And that's concerning. And this does affect more than downtown. There's an issue in page 3, subsection G, where the different zoning districts are laid out differently. It's probably a Scrivener's error, but there are concerns in that piece of legislation. Due process continues to be a concern. Who is going to implement this? You know, they're up every year. I mean, these are people's livelihoods. And these are businesses that could lose their license or their permit for a year if a person or two really has a vendetta against this lot and is constantly calling the police. After 2 or 3, that has changed. I mean, that's a concern. And again, I will reiterate, and I don't feel like it's been reciprocated. My clients and myself are willing to sit down and come up with a solution that can work for all sides. And I appreciate that there are some things that seem to be non-negotiable. Alderwoman Schweitzer hit on some points. You know, right now in the commissioner's order, which was cited several times and is on the books right now, and that was from September 2011. That was implemented then. I mean, are there the revisions that need to occur there? That's very possible. I'm not going to bore everybody. I will get to the committee with my other legal issues that go with here, or wait for the city. I don't want to speak to that without the city councilor present or some sort of attorney on that. But you know, I remain optimistic that we could come up with something or try to. And again, I work downtown. I live downtown. So it's not like I'm not aware of these situations, and I appreciate the residents' dedication and Alderman Page and all the alderpersons that represent that. So I probably have said too much or really haven't said anything. So I'll stop there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a member of the committee that has a question for Mr. Sweeney? Any member of the committee? Any alderman person who's not on the committee, you have a right to ask questions if you want to. Okay, hearing none, we will go back to a supporter, Mr. Tanner Tucker. Mr. Tucker, again, I'm sorry it took a little longer than I thought, but thank you for being here and waiting till the end. I see you are committed to this process.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'll keep my comments short because I know we're a little short on time today, but I am here to testify in support of Board Bill 80. I'm a downtown West resident of 1501 Locust, been here for about 4.5 years, and I co-chair the Downtown Neighborhood Association Safety Committee. From my condo in downtown West, I can see 5 different parking lots from my window, all with varying levels of security and maintenance, anywhere from no gates all the way up to a 6-foot gate with a rolling barrier to block it. And with those 5 lots, I've seen 5 completely different levels of activity. The ones that are not secure or open constantly have broken glass, trash, burnouts, parties. Those with a medium level of security, we've seen some break-ins, although very, very rare. And then the one that has a complete 6-foot fence all around it, as you can imagine, has very little activity at all, unless someone sneaks in the back. I don't think we've had a break-in in there for quite a while. It's it's a recurring theme in downtown and downtown west that these unsecured lots without any sort of fencing, any sort of gating, or any sort of access control or security receive the same kinds of activity over and over. And some of these lots are treated nothing other than a future investment opportunity by owners that have little to no incentive in making sure their asset is attractive and safe for visitors to the city. Parking lots held as an investment property generate significantly less property tax revenue than developed property. These management companies have minimal employees paying city taxes, and insurance rates as well as utilities on surface lots are negligible compared to a finished structure. At the same time, these lots are sometimes making a significant income from visitors to our city as well as those that come to work every day. I see no reason these lots should not be forced to, at a minimum, make sure their asset is safe, deters crime, and is attractive for visitors to visit our city's core. I really don't think the capital expenditures being asked for in this bill are going to cause owners long-term financial harm, and in fact may even make visitors choose to park off the streets and in their lots more often. We require buildings to have safety standards such as fire suppression, specific egress requirements, as well as many others. It's not unheard of to require surface lots to have similar types of rules and safety measures. While this bill is not going to solve all the crime, it's not going to solve all of the break-ins, it will be an additional deterrent and hopefully a piece of a larger puzzle to keep downtown west, and the rest of the city safe. And with that, that's all I have this morning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tucker. Does any member of the committee have a question for Mr. Tucker? Any member of the committee? Any member of the board who's not a member of the committee have any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Tucker. And now we have Mr. Poor, who I have as the last speaker besides Alderman Page.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to speak today. And I also wanted to thank the various other aldermen and women that I spoke to over the past week. And having not had a lot of experience with the different people in this committee, or any committee for that matter, I'm proud to see the commitment level that the alder people that I met with have to their job and their role as an alder person. So I appreciate your dedication to the city. I do want to be brief because a lot of the things have been covered, but I know it is tempting to pass a bill that on its surface maybe appears to help crime in our city. I agree with a lot of the things that were said today. I have a lot of questions that I don't want to waste the time of this panel, but I'm hoping that we can maybe look at a better bill in the future. And James and I spoke a couple days ago, Alderman Page and I spoke a few days ago. We do want to work together. I've been very clear with everyone we've spoken to. Fencing is one issue that I brought up on the last call that I don't want to dwell on, but I think there's too many case studies that we have, and I call them case studies loosely, where the fencing hasn't worked. Alderwoman Schweitzer met us on one of the parking lots that's actually owned by the city a few days ago. Yes, a few days ago, and where we, I think, have a very effective system that is not a fence system, that's a bollard system that's controlling the ingress and egress. And that was at the recommendation of the St. Louis Police Department right next to the wheelhouse. The list of changes that I'd like to make to this bill are too long to go over on this call. There's too many unanswered questions. What I think the next step really should be is to put this bill on hold and focus on the problem properties, whatever those are, and really try to make progress on those properties at first, and then instead of passing what I see as punitive legislation at this point. A few of the comments that were made by various people that spoke, and I may have misunderstood, that all city lots are in compliance. If that meant that all the city lots are in compliance to what this new board bill would have them follow, that's not the case, because I know, because we operate some locations for the city that are not currently in compliance with what this new board bill would cover. Any event, thank you for your time, and appreciate your support.
So you are in opposition of the board bill as it is currently written, but you might be able to support something that was a compromise. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. Thanks for clarifying. And the fence is a major issue. It's not the only issue. But if I had to pick two right now, it's the fence requirements. And then probably most importantly, just what appears to be one person decides whether your business is going to be open or not once they receive a few phone calls. So.
Well, I don't think it's quite that simplistic because they just write it up, but I don't think it's one person that's going to decide. I think that, you know, it might go before the Board of Building. One person might say it, but then we have a Board of Building Appeals and we have some other due process steps that's involved in this. Okay. So I get your gist. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I see Alderwoman Peels hand up. Is there anyone else that is a more senior alder person that has any questions? If not, Alderwoman Peel, you are recognized.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I had a few questions for you. Mr. Power?
Poor.
How do you pronounce it? Poor. Oh, just Poor. Just Poor. Well, maybe you could try to pronounce my last name and you can mangle it too.
Okay.
So, I get mine mangled, but thank you, Mr. Poor. Are you a parking lot owner?
Yes, owner and manager, and we have about 80 locations plus or minus that we own, lease, or manage in the city of St. Louis, mostly that we manage.
Okay, great. So how long have you been owning those lots?
I represent the third generation in the parking business in the city of St. Louis, but it really depends on the property.
Okay, and so you mentioned that you manage a lot of lots, so that means some of them you don't own, correct?
Correct.
And then about what percentage do you own?
Great question. I would say of the 80 downtown, less than 10%.
Okay.
That's an educated guess.
All right. I'm just asking you questions. I think we'll just stick to the parking lots that you own because you kind of have more control over that, I'll say. So, my question is, so you're 3 generations in the parking business? So it's a family business? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. And when did you take over kind of the management of it? Are you like the head in terms of on this family business?
So I am part of a team, but I'm the CEO of the company. I started when I was 13. I'll be 51 in about a month. So I've been doing it for a while.
All right. You started at 13 as the CEO. That's wonderful.
That's right.
Well, great. So when did you go from attendance to automated, or how many attendants do you have on those properties that you own?
I would love to, I want to make educated guesses or I'd like to get back to you after this meeting, but each lot is different. The one that Mr. Sturman's discussed, I guess, and then I'll try to answer your question, but the one that he's discussed, and I think Mr. Waldrop brought up last week, when he says Mr. Poor owns, so that particular property is owned by probably 16 people, and I'm not one of the 16 people, but we manage the property, and some of my family are owners of that property. But I would like to talk about that property in particular, if I could. We were having issues, I don't know if it's been a year, 2 years, and Todd Walterman had suggested and offered to put these concrete barricades around the property. It's a tricky property, meaning there's a lot of entrances and exits, and this is what we call Tucker and St. Charles. So as far as I know, we have not had a lot of security incidents that have been brought to my particular attention on that property. There's other properties that do have attendance during the daytime. Some of them just have attendance during special events. Some of them don't have attendance during special events. Depends on how close they are to the location in which there's a special event.
Okay. And what was the reasoning for your family to go in terms of change from attendance to automation?
I'd say each one would be different, the answer, but certainly there's a cost savings in some cases, or in some cases. What we found with technology is it doesn't always eliminate your expense, or I should say it never eliminates your expense. Maybe you have a manager stopping by at a higher rate of pay than someone that is an hourly person, and we do pay above minimum wage. I know that was discussed earlier, not saying that we were or weren't. So really, each location is different. And as I said at the end of my my talk today is, I'd really love to find out what these problem properties are in the mind of whomever provided a list to someone on this call, I think. And let's work on those properties right now and determine what's the best strategy to reduce crime versus, passing this bill as written.
And do you like automation?
I do, but it really depends. Every location is like a fingerprint or a snowflake. Depends on the neighbors. So yes and no. We are strongly considering going cashless in the near future. Obviously to help a lot of things, but one being the safety of our attendants. And they are not security guards, as everyone's mentioned on this call. But it's discouraging to see what happened, at the garage yesterday or the day before, even though they had, it seems like, a lot of security measures in place, which I think proves the point that some of this stuff isn't going to solve the issue, but we do want to be part of the solution in some way.
Great. And so if I understand you correctly, the lot next to Mr. Sturman's apartment complex has like 16 owners or something like that. Is that correct?
I'm making an educated guess. So it was purchased by my grandfather and this other family's grandfather 50 years ago. And once they pass away, then it goes down, and it just keeps, the number of owners continues to increase. So I'm happy to go to that property and look at it and see if there's improvements that we can make. But as I said, we were under the impression that working with Todd Walterman and the other people by securing the lot that we've significantly reduced the issues on that property. But it sounds like I'm maybe hearing that that's not the case.
Okay. And my last question is, have you made more profits because you've automated?
I don't know the answer. I know we would have reduced expenses, but not eliminated expenses. I think that, so that's my answer, is it depends on the location. I do know that on the last call, it was mentioned that we're going to guarantee, that everyone thinks we're going to increase our revenue because more people are going to want to park there. I think if you have 2 or 3 parking lots and that's been your experience, I would see where you would come to that conclusion. But I don't know how you can say that when there's over 80 locations. And as said earlier, I don't know how you can treat every single location the same. I just don't see how that makes makes sense. If there's no criminal history on a certain property, why do they have to make this investment now?
Wonderful. I know that these improvements, whatever the improvements will be, will not mitigate all of the safety issues. They're still going to be there. I do understand that. I just seem, and maybe I know you don't have it on top of your head, and I know you're a private company and everything, but it would be, I know that for you to keep managing these lots and everything, or even the people who you're managing the lots for, you're looking at the revenues all the time. And so, that information, I assume you have that information regarding, how much you're making, and was it more than before when you had attendance and all of that stuff? So, because one of the things that Mr. Sturman talked about, and I know in the board bill and everything else, and I kind of think about this the same way, is regarding, with automation, you have an increase of revenues. And so some of that increase of revenues can pay for some of these improvements. So that's where I'm kind of getting at in terms of trying to get more information. I know you might not have it now, but I feel that that information as a business owner, for me, I would know whether I'm making more or less. I know each parking lot is different, but you have you have an average when you put them all together. So thank you for answering the questions. I don't know if you have any last minute answers in terms of what I've spoken about.
Yes, no, thank you. And I don't think you're saying this, but just in case you were, so no, I just don't know the exact revenue. I'm not being divisive or not. I'm not trying to not answer your question. So literally, if someone says, Eddie, you know, how much does a parking lot cost? Well, each parking lot is different because of the revenue that you brought up. So I'm not afraid to look at, hey, how has the property benefited or not benefited since we've automated the property? So that would require some work, of which I'm happy to look at for a general statement. I just don't have the information in front of me. So, but we certainly keep track of all of our revenue. And we do pay, obviously, more than just the fee that's charged to get your occupancy permit through taxes. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's what I was saying. I know you don't have it on the spot and that information, but I think the committee would be interested in knowing that information next time that we come together. So I mean, I know I would love to have that information. So yeah, please look into that.
That sounds great. So to me, clarifying, gross income or net income?
I guess it would be net income.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's what I was hoping you were going to say.
Can I make a suggestion? The speakers list has his email on it, Alderwoman Field. So if you have some exact things that you want, you could email him and ask him for it. So if you look at the speakers list, they all have, it's on the on our
agenda. I see that now.
Not our agenda, but on the what I'm saying, what is the Google Drive?
In the drive, yes.
Right, exactly. So that way you can send it directly to him what you want and CC the other committee members. And then not the next week, but the week after, we'll be able to, that'll give him enough time to get it together and we'll all have it in our hands, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alderman Vaccaro, I guess you left and ate lunch and came back. So I see you have a question.
Well, I did since some of these questions came up.
So wait a minute, what I want to do, because I have to go eat, is I'm gonna put you in charge of the committee because I see my vice chair is not here. So you in charge of the committee while I go get some lunch, because in a half an hour, we have to be in public safety. Is that all right?
That's fine. And I'm just gonna do 2 or 3 fast things and then I'll adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, Eddie, and I don't know if the treasurer is still here or not, but of the lots that you guys have and I wish the treasurer was here. What I would be interested in, because I was in business, you know, my whole life. I mean, I started out at 20 years old in my own business. And one of the things I know is every time they put things on us, it got passed along in higher prices. No business says, gee, we're just going to make less money and we'll get over it. You see that, you know, at these fast food restaurants now, if you don't know how to work a kiosk, you're not going to get there. Of the lots that you guys have, and I would also interested in from the treasurer, which I'll send, what percent more? I mean, there's a lot of city employees that pay to park downtown and a lot of people that work downtown that have to pay to park so they can go to work. What percent, are we talking 1, 2, 3, 5% increase on parking fees downtown on lots? I know everybody wants to say, gee, you know what, during a ball game, oh man, everybody's just cleaning up or during, but that, again, as I look at it, maybe I'm wrong. I would think that would be the smaller part of the total income. I think your daily parking fees and stuff like that. I would have to believe in the business that would get passed along to people that work downtown, that park downtown. If you were just to take a guess, and if you don't have one, that's fine. How much of an increase in parking fees if this stuff goes into effect and these costs get passed along to the people that park, that work at City Hall, as well as people that work downtown? What percent? 1, 2, 3% increase in parking fees? Do you have a clue?
I really don't. I'd have to give it some thought. So as I said on the call last week, very quick bar napkin math, we thought the minimum improvements for one of these lots could be 50,000 and then the max could be 500,000 based on the fencing and lighting and other requirements. So let's use the 50,000. I don't know what the answer is, but you're absolutely right. We're going to have to pass it on. And then, as one, Missouri, MoDOT is one of our clients as an example. So, and they're one of the groups that would have to probably put in the most fencing if I had to guess. So is MoDOT going to do this? Are they exempt from these rules? But Alderman Vaccaro, I don't know the answer, and I can work on trying to figure out what sort of an average, but there's certainly going to have to be an increase in cost.
Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to get across. I'm asking it knowing it will be, because again, being in business, I don't ever remember, when they came up with the air pollution laws, or they came up with the different ordinances for the car wash and that. It just got passed along in higher costs. And I know the employees, are already saying, gee, you know what? We need to have something where we can park downtown, and that they have to pay. And the city said, well, we can't do that. It's just not possible. We make a lot of money off parking from our own employees. So I just wanted to get the point across. I know you probably don't know the real number because you don't know the real cost, but I'm just trying to get a point across that this is going to result in higher prices for parking, not only for our city employees, which are already saying that, that they don't make enough money and we're having enough trouble getting people to work downtown. So anyway, I knew you didn't have a real cost. I wanted to get a point across that no business is going to just say, gee, we'll just eat this and we'll make we'll absorb the cost.
Right.
Any business is going to say, okay, well, if we're forced to do this, we pass it along, which is going to result in higher parking prices for our city employees as well as other employees. After saying that, I don't really have any other questions. And since I did do that, if one of the other alders that are still on that want to pose a question to me, they certainly can. I see no hands. So having made my comment, I would actually at this point call for an adjournment. If we have a motion to adjourn.
So moves.
A second. Anyone want to second it? I'll second it. All in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned until I believe will be next Wednesday.